FEMA just updated their emergency food list, and if you don't have these 7 items stockpiled right now, you could be in serious trouble when disaster strikes. And honestly, number 4 will shock you because most people get this completely wrong. Look, I'm not trying to scare you, but FEMA, the same government agency that responds to hurricanes, floods, and major disasters, now recommends you have 2 weeks of food stored, not just 72 hours like they used to say. Why the change? Because they've learned that emergency services can't reach everyone immediately, and store shelves go empty fast. So let me break down the exact 7 food items they're telling every American household to stockpile. Some of these might surprise you, and I'll explain why each one could literally save your life. 1. Ready-to-eat canned meats. First up, ready-to-eat canned meats, but here's what most people mess up completely. They think, oh, I'll just grab some fresh meat from the store when disaster hits. Wrong. Let me tell you what happened in Texas in February 2021. When Winter Storm Uri hit, grocery stores completely ran out of staple foods like bread, milk, and eggs within hours. Most stores were forced to close due to lack of power, and the few that stayed open? Empty shelves everywhere. But here's the kicker. Dairy farmers were literally pouring $8 million worth of milk down the drain every day because they couldn't get it to processing plants without electricity. Fresh meat? Forget about it. Your refrigerated food only stays safe for 4 hours without power, and people were without electricity for days. That's exactly why FEMA puts canned meats at the top of their list. These can be eaten straight out of the can without any cooking or heating. We're talking canned chicken, beef, salmon, even Vienna sausages. You know, the stuff you probably walked past in the grocery store thinking, I'll never eat that. Well, guess what? When you're hungry and it's been 3 days since the power went out, that canned chicken is going to taste like a 5-star meal. Plus, your body needs about 50 to 60 grams of protein per day just to maintain muscle mass during stress. And 1 can of chicken gives you almost 25 grams right there. Peanut butter. Number 2 is peanut butter, and this is absolutely genius because... Okay, you need to hear this real story first. During Hurricane Sandy back in 2012, you know, that monster storm that basically shut down New York for weeks, there was this family trapped in their apartment building when the power went out and all the grocery stores were cleaned out. You know what they survived on for almost 6 days? 1 jar of Skippy peanut butter, some stale crackers, and tap water. 6 freaking days. And when rescue teams finally reached them, they were in better shape than their neighbors who had spent hundreds on those fancy freeze-dried emergency meals that actually spoiled when their apartments got too humid. But here's the mind-blowing part that FEMA researchers discovered. And this is going to change how you think about emergency food forever. Just 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. That's literally 2 tiny spoonfuls, about the size of a ping pong ball, packs an absolutely insane 188 calories and 8 grams of complete protein. To put that in perspective, that's more protein than most people get in their entire breakfast, and we're talking about something that fits on a spoon. But wait, it gets better. Peanut butter is a fairly balanced energy source that supplies all of the 3 major macronutrients: your protein, your carbs, and your healthy fats all wrapped up in one perfect little package. We're not just talking survival calories here. We're talking about actual nutrition that could keep your brain functioning and your body strong when everything else falls apart. And honestly, this is where most people completely miss the point. They think, oh, peanut butter, that's just kid food. Wrong. Most of the fat content in peanut butter is monounsaturated fat, which is much better for your heart. This stuff is literally designed by nature to keep you alive. No refrigeration needed, no cooking required, no fancy prep equipment. You grab a spoon, boom, you're getting premium survival nutrition. Now here's the psychological factor that FEMA doesn't really advertise, but it's huge. When disaster strikes and your 7-year-old is scared, hungry, and crying, try getting them to eat those gross military MREs versus a simple peanut butter sandwich. I'll wait. Kids will actually eat this stuff. which means your family stays fed and your stress levels don't go through the roof trying to force feed them survival rations that taste like cardboard. But here's where it gets really interesting from a storage perspective. Peanut butter can be stored for up to 1 year in proper conditions. That's 12 months of just sitting there, ready to save your life. Store it in a cool, dry place away from sunlight, and you're golden. But here's the insider trick that could literally be the difference between life and death. Once you crack open that jar, you've got about 6 months before it starts losing nutritional value. So don't be that person who opens your emergency stash during a minor power outage. Save it for when you really need it. And let's talk versatility for a second, because this is where peanut butter becomes a total game changer. Whether used as a standalone spread, a protein-rich ingredient in recipes, or a source of comfort and familiarity in times of distress, its adaptability makes it a crucial component of emergency food supplies. You can eat it straight from the jar, spread it on crackers, mix it with water to make a protein shake, or even use it as a base for energy balls if you've got some oats lying around. It's like having a Swiss Army knife in food form. Here's something that'll blow your mind. During major disasters, peanut butter has emerged as a staple in emergency food supplies due to its long shelf life, high nutritional value, and ease of distribution. Relief organizations literally truck this stuff in by the pallet because they know it works. When Hurricane Katrina hit, when Texas froze in 2021, when Puerto Rico lost power for months, peanut butter was there, keeping families fed when everything else failed. The bottom line? For about $3, you can get a jar that contains enough calories and protein to keep one person alive for several days. Show me another food that can do that without refrigeration, without cooking, and without any special storage requirements. You can't because it doesn't exist. FEMA didn't put peanut butter on their list by accident. They put it there because it works, it's affordable, and when push comes to shove, it could literally save your family's life. Canned fruits and vegetables. Third, canned fruits and vegetables, but not for the reason you think. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Vitamins and minerals, blah, blah, blah. But here's what's actually terrifying. During Hurricane Katrina, doctors started seeing something they'd never expected. People who had plenty of food were getting sick with diseases that shouldn't exist in America. We're talking scurvy, the same disease that killed pirates 300 years ago. Beriberi, pellagra. Diseases that sound like they're from a history book. You know why? Because when disaster strikes, your body goes into overdrive. The stress alone burns through vitamins faster than you can imagine. And without fresh fruits and vegetables, vitamin deficiencies can show up in just weeks, not months. We're talking about your immune system basically shutting down when you need it most. But here's the genius part about canned fruits and vegetables. They're not just about nutrition. They're about keeping your family from losing their minds. Listen, I've talked to disaster survivors. And you know what they tell me? After 3 days of eating crackers and peanut butter, their kids start breaking down. Adults start fighting over the last can of peaches. Emergency nutrition experts now know that familiar foods, especially sweet fruits, actually prevent psychological breakdown during crisis. Your brain craves what it knows, especially when everything else feels out of control. And here's the kicker that'll blow your mind. You better have a manual can opener, because I guarantee you, the first thing that'll fail is your electric one. There's this story from the 2021 Texas freeze where a family had 50 cans of food, but their electric opener died with the power. They tried everything, knives, rocks, even a hammer, nearly cut themselves trying to get into a simple can of green beans. Don't let that be you. Get the most basic, old-school manual can opener you can find. The Easy Does IT style, all metal, no plastic parts that can break. And honestly, get two, because when your neighbor comes knocking with cans and no opener, you'll be the hero of the block. High-energy foods, protein bars. Number 4 is where most people get it totally wrong. And honestly, this mistake could literally cost you your life. So picture this. You're thinking, oh, I'll just grab some granola bars from the pantry, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. Here's what happened in Texas during that insane freeze in 2021. Families were stuck without power for days. And you know what? Those regular snacks they stockpiled, they made them so thirsty they couldn't drink enough water to keep up. People were literally choosing between eating and staying hydrated. But here's where FEMA's recommendation gets absolutely genius. We're not talking about your average protein bar from the gym. Emergency food bars are engineered completely differently, and the science behind them will blow your mind. Listen to this. A single emergency food bar can pack up to 3,600 calories. That's like cramming 2 full days of energy into something the size of a paperback book. These bars deliver 2,460 calories in less than 21 ounces, which is insane caloric density. Your regular granola bar? Maybe 150 calories if you're lucky. And get this, emergency bars are specifically designed to not make you thirsty. While your neighbor's munching on salty chips and desperately searching for water, you're getting sustained energy without that constant need to drink. These are all designed to not make you thirsty, so eating them dry is the main way to consume them. It's all about the formula. They balance proteins, fats, and carbs in a way that your body can process without pulling water from your system. But here's what's really crazy. Most survival bars are chalky, dry, and taste like sawdust, but the newer emergency bars actually taste like shortbread cookies. One reviewer said, "Don't let the name fool you. These survival bars taste exactly like cookies. They're sweet and moist like shortbread. So you're not choking down cardboard when you're already stressed." Now think about this scenario. Disaster strikes. You need to evacuate fast. Are you going to grab that heavy box of crackers or one lightweight bar that gives you the same energy as 6 regular snacks? Emergency experts call this caloric density, and it's honestly a game changer when every ounce in your bag matters. Here's something that'll shock you. Each case of food bars provides basic rations for one person for 30 days, with 144,000 calories total. That's like having an entire month's worth of survival calories in one small box you can carry with one hand. The latest research from survival nutritionists shows that emergency food bars are perfect for energy and nutrition on the go, and of course in an emergency, because they don't require water to digest, a critical feature when your access to sterile drinking water becomes precarious. And here's something FEMA doesn't advertise. These bars have a 5 to 20-year shelf life. Ready hour bars store for up to 5 years, but some military-grade ones last decades. Compare that to your pantry snacks that go stale in months. One survival expert who tested different bars during real emergencies said, "Had to use these sooner than expected. With this winter storm and food rations running out, they're pretty amazing." Real people, real disasters, real results. Bottom line, when disaster strikes, you want bars that work with your body's survival mechanisms, not against them. A good blend of protein, carbs, vitamins, and minerals is needed to keep you cruising through a disaster. You don't want your organs shutting down from starvation. Emergency bars aren't just food. They're engineered survival tools. Dried fruit and nuts. 5th on FEMA's list, dried fruit and nuts. And honestly, this is where I'm going to blow your mind because most people have absolutely no clue why this simple combo could literally be the difference between surviving and thriving when everything hits the fan. So here's the thing that'll shock you. Back in 2020, researchers tracked over 3,000 adults for months, and they discovered something absolutely wild. Men who ate the most nuts were 66% less likely to experience anxiety compared to those who barely ate any. 66%. We're not just talking about being less hangry, folks. We're talking about your brain's ability to function under extreme stress when your world is literally falling apart. But here's where it gets really interesting. And this is something FEMA doesn't advertise because they don't want to panic people. When disasters strike, you know what kills more people than you'd think? It's not always the disaster itself. It's the psychological breakdown that follows. Every year, millions of people are affected by emergencies, and nearly all those affected experience psychological distress. The World Health Organization has documented this after every major disaster from the 2004 tsunami to Hurricane Katrina. Now, why are nuts and dried fruit so crucial? Let me paint you a picture. When Texas froze solid in 2021 and people lost power for weeks, guess what happened? The folks who had proper emergency food, including nuts and dried fruit, weren't just physically healthier, they were mentally more stable. Pistachios, walnuts, and almonds actually help lower cholesterol and ease inflammation, but they also protect you against the effects of stress. Your body literally handles crisis better when you're feeding it the right fuel. But dried fruit? Oh man, this is where it gets brilliant. See, when you're in survival mode, your cortisol levels, that's your stress hormone, go absolutely through the roof. Your body is burning energy like crazy, and regular food just doesn't cut it. Dried fruit hits your bloodstream fast with natural sugars, giving you that instant energy boost when you're running on pure adrenaline and 3 hours of sleep. Raw fruits and vegetables are associated with better mental health than processed versions, and dried fruit maintains most of those mood-boosting compounds. And here's something FEMA quietly calls these in their internal documents: comfort and stress foods. Because when you're scared, hungry, cold, and you don't know if help is coming, familiar flavors can literally be the psychological anchor that keeps you sane. Having routine meals with familiar foods will help improve moods and boost optimism, according to Oregon State University's disaster preparedness research. Now, here's where most people absolutely mess this up, and I mean catastrophically mess it up. They buy nuts and dried fruit, throw them in a cabinet, and forget about them until they're basically eating leather and rancid oil 5 years later. Heat will quickly degrade nuts and make them go rancid, and if you're not storing them properly, you're basically stockpiling expensive disappointment. The secret? Temperature control and airtight storage. Store them in cool, dry places. Think basement, not garage. Use airtight containers, not the flimsy bags they come in. Do this right, and some dried fruits can last up to 36 months when stored properly, while nuts can go 6 to 9 months easy. That's literally years of brain-protecting, stress-fighting, sanity-preserving nutrition just sitting there waiting for when you need it most. But here's the kicker, and this is something most people never think about. You can actually eat this stuff without any preparation whatsoever. No cooking, no water, no heating. Some dehydrated foods, like fruits, can be eaten as is. When the power's out, when you've got no gas, when you're potentially evacuating with just what you can carry, you can literally grab a handful and keep going. Try doing that with canned soup. The bottom line, this isn't just about calories, folks. This is about keeping your head straight when everything around you is chaos. Because in a real emergency, the person who can think clearly, who isn't having a mental breakdown, who can make good decisions under pressure, that person survives. And sometimes all it takes is the right kind of fuel to keep that mental engine running smooth. Non-perishable milk. Number 6 might surprise you. Shelf-stable milk. And honestly, this one's gonna blow your mind because there's some serious science behind why FEMA is pushing this so hard. And it's not just about having milk for your cereal. So here's the thing. You know how everyone panics when the power goes out and all the milk in their fridge goes bad within hours? Well, guess what? There's this type of milk that literally sits on the shelf for months without any refrigeration. I'm talking about UHT milk. That's ultra-high temperature pasteurized milk that comes in those little aseptic boxes you see at the store. But here's where it gets absolutely crazy. New research from Purdue University just dropped, and they're using something called millisecond technology that heats milk for literally milliseconds, we're talking fractions of a second, to kill all the bad bacteria while keeping every single vitamin and mineral intact. It's like they're flash cooking milk faster than you can blink. This stuff can now last up to 9 months at room temperature, and it tastes exactly like the milk you're used to. Now, let me tell you why this matters more than you think. During disasters, your body goes into stress mode, right? And here's something most people don't know. When you're under extreme stress, your body actually burns through calcium like crazy. We're talking about muscle cramps, heart palpitations, even seizures in severe cases. Medical research shows that 3.5 billion people worldwide are already at risk of calcium deficiency, and that's during normal times. Imagine what happens during a disaster when you can't get fresh dairy for weeks. 1 cup of reconstituted powdered milk gives you 30% of your daily calcium and 50% of your vitamin D. But here's the kicker. It also provides 15% of your vitamin A, which is crucial for your immune system when you're dealing with unsanitary conditions after a disaster. Your body literally can't function properly without these nutrients. And here's a story that'll make you understand why this matters. During Hurricane Katrina, I read about families who had shelf-stable milk and were able to give their kids normal breakfast cereal while everyone else was literally fighting over the last spoiled gallon of milk at gas stations. Kids were crying, parents were stressed out of their minds, but these prepared families, their children were calm, well-fed, and getting proper nutrition. But there's also this psychological component that FEMA doesn't really talk about in their official documents. When disaster strikes and everything feels chaotic, having a glass of cold milk, something so normal and comforting, can literally calm your nervous system. It's not just about nutrition, it's about maintaining some sense of normalcy when your world is falling apart. Milk represents comfort, childhood, safety. Your brain associates it with being cared for. Now, here's where most people mess this up completely. They think all shelf-stable milk is the same, but it's not. You've got 3 main options: UHT boxed milk, powdered milk, and evaporated milk. The UHT boxes taste exactly like regular milk, and you can drink them straight. Some brands are even adding DHA now, which is literally brain food. The powdered stuff is more compact and lasts longer. But here's a pro tip. The good brands take 8 hours to process, which dissolves the crystals completely. That's why some powdered milk tastes chalky and gross, while others taste amazing. And get this, new companies are making powdered milk with 21 essential nutrients that can last 25 years on the shelf. We're talking about milk that your grandchildren could drink if they had to. But the real game changer? You can use shelf-stable milk for cooking too. Mac and cheese, mashed potatoes, coffee, baking. It works for everything. So you're not just surviving, you're actually maintaining a normal diet. Here's something that'll shock you. During the Texas freeze in 2021, store shelves were empty within hours, but the people who had shelf-stable milk were making hot chocolate for their kids, while their neighbors were melting snow, just to have something to drink. The psychological impact on those families was completely different. The kids weren't traumatized, because mom and dad could still provide normal comfort foods. So don't just grab whatever's cheapest. Get a mix. Some UHT boxes for immediate use, some quality powdered milk for long-term storage, and maybe some evaporated milk for cooking. Store them in a cool, dry place, and rotate your stock every 6 months to a year. Your future self will thank you when you're sipping a normal glass of milk while everyone else is fighting over bottled water. Comfort, stress foods. And number 7 is actually the most important thing on FEMA's list. And honestly, it might shock you. Comfort and stress foods. Now, you're probably thinking, wait, what? Cookies and crackers are survival essentials? But let me blow your mind with what scientists discovered in 2024. Here's the thing. When disaster strikes, your brain doesn't just deal with the immediate danger. It goes into full survival mode, and that completely rewires your brain chemistry. Research from 2024 shows that chronic stress can reduce your serotonin production by up to 50%. Serotonin is your happiness chemical. It's what keeps you calm, helps you sleep, and makes you feel okay. When that gets cut in half, you're not just hungry, you're psychologically broken. But here's where it gets really crazy. Scientists at the Garvan Institute discovered that when you're stressed and you eat comfort food, it literally switches off the part of your brain that tells you when you've had enough. Your lateral habenula, that's your brain's stop eating button, just goes silent. Under normal circumstances, this brain region makes eating less pleasurable after a while, so you stop. But when you're stressed, it's like that safety mechanism just disappears. Now, think about this from a disaster perspective. The CDC found that children are especially vulnerable because they can't communicate their feelings like fear or anxiety. A 5-year-old doesn't understand why the power's been out for 3 days. They just know something's very, very wrong. And when kids are that scared, familiar foods become psychological anchors. They boost serotonin levels and actually help regulate their stress response. FEMA has seen this in every major disaster. After Hurricane Katrina, researchers found that families who had access to familiar comfort foods, things like crackers, cookies, instant coffee, even hard candy, reported significantly lower anxiety levels. Why? Because these foods trigger the release of serotonin and dopamine, your brain's feel-good chemicals. It's not just about calories, it's about keeping your family's mental health intact. During COVID, scientists analyzed millions of social media posts and found people weren't just stress eating, they were desperately craving the exact foods from their childhood, the same cookies their grandmother made, the same instant coffee they drank every morning. Because when everything around you is chaos, these foods become psychological time machines that transport you back to when life felt safe. And here's what's really important for parents to understand. New research from 2024 shows that children and adolescents are the most vulnerable during disasters because their brains are still developing. Every year, 175 million children globally are affected by natural disasters, and they experience increased problems with their physical health and mental well-being. When a scared child asks for their favorite crackers, they're not being difficult. Their brain is literally trying to self-regulate. So when FEMA tells you to stock cookies, instant coffee, tea bags, crackers, and hard candy, they're not being frivolous. They know that palatable, rewarding foods produce both temporary increases in serotonin and rushes of dopamine that help reduce acute stress responses. It's what scientists call comfort eating for stress relief. And in a disaster, that's not a luxury. It's survival psychology. The brilliant thing about FEMA's list is they understand that feeding your family isn't just about keeping them alive, it's about keeping them human. Because when your 8-year-old can have a familiar cookie while the world falls apart around them, you're not just feeding their body. You're telling their brain that some things are still okay, some things are still safe, and mommy and daddy still have control over something. That's not just emergency preparedness. That's emotional first aid. Now, here's what FEMA doesn't want to scare you with. They've seen situations where people waited too long. When Hurricane Katrina hit, store shelves were empty within hours. When Texas froze in 2021, people were fighting over the last cans of food. But don't panic buy everything at once. FEMA actually recommends building your stockpile gradually. Grab one extra can each grocery trip, and store everything in a cool, dry place away from sunlight. Check expiration dates every 6 months. Look, I hope you never need this food, but if disaster strikes tomorrow, you'll be the neighbor everyone wishes they were. Start with just one item from this list today. And if this helped you, hit that like button so more people can prepare their families. Oh, and there's one item FEMA quietly removed from their list that could get you in legal trouble. I'll cover that in the next video.